On today's show, Paul George has spoken about the Clippers yet again, saying that when he came to LA, he felt like he was on the B team. What do we make of Paul George's continuous comments about the Clippers? And we're going to be closing the chapter in the book on his Clipper career and how he should be remembered. And joining me will be a very special guest that knows a thing or two about Clipper history on today's Locked On Off-Season Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and going into my 20th season as a Clipper fan. Before we get started, you already know the drill. Make sure you follow the podcast on all podcast platforms and, of course, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video to talk about your LA Clippers. And joining me is another LA native who has been a Clipper fan for even longer than 20 years. And I think of all the accounts that actually use like their face on Clippers Twitter, I think he has the biggest following that's non-media. Jamal, finally, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, bro? Long overdue, man. We should have been got something done, but glad to be on. Summertime talking Clippers, man. What else? Where else would we rather be, you know?
Yeah, and today we're going to be officially closing the book on Paul George. I know so many, as a Clipper, I know so many people are probably annoyed at this point with all the Paul George episodes I've done, but this is where I thought you would be a great guest to bring on because you know the story of the LA Clippers history in LA and like what we've come from, and you being even a fan longer than me. I mean, before we even get going with Paul George, like let people know, like as someone who lived in LA, I get this question all the time. You probably get it all the time. Briefly give us like your Clipper fan story and why you became a Clipper fan in like the early 2000s or whenever it was.
Yeah, so for me, it just started when I was really young. So my first introduction to like playing organized basketball was through like the junior Clipper leagues in the park and recs throughout LA. And so kind of like veering off really quick, but like the way the Clippers are doing it right now, making every park and rec like super clippered out, that works. Like it worked on me. And like I remember I can't think of age, like maybe like 8 or 9, where at the end of one of our seasons, the Clippers got us tickets and we played on the halftime. We played on the court at halftime. And yeah, like it was just always there for me, you know. I was a big AI and Kobe fan growing up. But my team was like the Clippers, like Q Rich, D Miles, and LO and Derek Anderson, Mo Taylor, Jeff McGinnis, you know, those early 2000s, late 90s even Clippers. Yeah, those are my guys, man. And so just that's when it started. And then as I got older, it never left. And then when I got to like my college years, I started working for the Clippers. I worked in community relations for them, which was kind of crazy how that happened. But I worked for 2 years there. And then after that, you know, we do some stuff with them every now and then still. But yeah, it's really since I was like a child, man. Started when I was playing in those junior Clipper leagues and then kind of just grew from there. And to see everything, to see where it's grown and to see where things have went, it's like it's surreal almost. You know, I talk about it on Twitter all the time, but like to know the story is to know how far things have come. You know, I was just actually talking with my mom about this because, you know, Intuit is like about to open up tomorrow. Not
Yeah,
like
we're gonna talk about
that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, really? In this city? And I think I tweeted it not too long ago, but like you look at the list of like first ballot Hall of Famers and all-stars and superstars now that like don Clipper jerseys. At one point, this was not thought of, man. It wasn't gonna be like this. So actually at this point, like I know it's been a lot of like disappointment and and heartache. But I remember when there was no disappointment and heartache. Like I remember when none of that existed because there were no expectations. You know what I mean? And the prayer was to make the playoffs. And now the expectation is to make the playoffs. And then we've even broken through a few years back to the conference finals. So yeah, everything that's taken place with the Clippers during my lifetime, I've seen it at the worst. I've seen it at its peak. Obvious bias, but I think things are going to continue to grow. And yeah, like I'm stuck this way, man. I'm gonna die this way. You know what I mean?
Oh, likewise. And I mean, one of those Hall of Famers, one of those big names, Paul George, just ended his 5-year run with the Clippers. He also has been obviously speaking a lot about us because, you know, he has his podcast and he's going to speak about it. Recently called us the B team, or said when I came to the Clippers, it felt like I was joining the B team based on how I was talked about. You know, you and I are pretty honest with the fact that being from LA, we know that we are the B team, but I would say 2 questions. 1, let people know why that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things for what we want to be. And 2, how did you feel about hearing those comments? And, you know, why do you think Clipper fans are so pissed off about it on social media?
Well, they're pissed off because of the timing of it, right? Like you're calling us the B team because if I'm not mistaken, I think he said something like this before.
He did.
About us being the B team. But it's one thing to say it while you're a member of the Clippers, and then it's another to say it after you've pretty much had the worst series of your career and then left right after. Now you're calling us the B team. And it's like, you know, we're the B team, but like, of course we're the B team. And I keep telling people this. We're the B team, but like there's no team in the NBA outside of like 3 or 4 teams that wouldn't be the B team if they shared the city with the Lakers, right? It doesn't matter because the Clippers have a very large presence in Los Angeles. And I always say this all the time, like, you know, the joke on Twitter is the Clippers have no fans, the Clippers have no presence in Los Angeles. And that's like the furthest thing from the truth. That's why it doesn't matter, because the Clippers have their own thing. We have superstars. We have our own arena. We have our own motion. So, yeah, the B team, I said this, the B team comment, that didn't bother me because it's like, it's the truth, right? The Lakers are arguably the greatest, not just NBA franchise. Like, they're one of the greatest franchises to ever exist. Like, I wish we had Kobe, Shaq, and you know what I mean, Phil Jackson and Chick Hearn, and you know, you got Lawrence Tanner talking, and like, dude, there's just so much going on over there. So I say that to say, if you're really paying attention, especially if you are in LA, you can see how far the Clippers have come. The fact that they share a city with a team like that, and they've got multiple all-stars and superstars to demand to play here, to re-sign here. We got one of the best coaches. Shout out to Ty Lue. Good luck in the Olympics. We've got the 5th richest guy in the world running the team. Like, we have all of these things going for us while sharing the city with the Lakers. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Because we got our own thing going. And yeah, man, how did I feel about it? I tweeted how I felt about it, man. Like, you're right. Like, you just stated the obvious. I don't care that you said that. How I feel is what I tweeted, right? Which was, don't tell me we are the B team. You knew we were the B team when you signed here. In fact, according to what you said, that was part of the reason that you and Kawhi came here. So you can, we would never we would never eclipse the Lakers, obviously, but like, that gap is supposed to be shortened because you are supposed to be the guy, right? Along with Kawhi. And so don't tell me we're the B team. Tell me why you average 19 a game on like 39% from the floor, and then like a week or two later ask for a no trade clause. And like tell me that. Like, you know what I mean? And it's crazy because he has his own pod and he talks about everything else You want to call us the B team? Fine. Talk about your performance, though, right? Like, shout out to Derek Jones. He's a member of the family now. Talk about how Derek Jones had you in jail. Talk
Yeah.
about that. You know what I mean? So, respectfully, Paul George to me is one of the better Clippers in the history of the franchise. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't even know the stat. Maybe you do. But I don't know how many like guys made All NBA while being Clippers. It can't be a long list, and Paul George is on that list. He's made All Stars with the Clippers. He made an All NBA team, and of course, the 2021 run. That's another story. But people keep getting
Well,
revisionist history about that. But
we got to hold that thought on the PG's Clipper
yeah.
legacy thing. But on the B team thing, I
Okay.
just wanted to say before we conclude on that, I felt similarly. I would say, yeah, we have our own thing in LA, and when I think people need to realize that not every franchise outside of like, I don't know, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Celtics, when those other teams aren't good and they don't have stars, they're not selling out every night. Only a couple teams in the league sell out every night, even when they're bad. And that's because they've built up some sort of legacy over decades and decades. So we're just like any other NBA franchise. And as some people say, like being second in LA is better than being first in a lot of other places. And we got a lot of things to look forward to. Paul George at this point, anything he says about stuff related to the Clippers, like no matter what comes out of his mouth, we're going to hate on it at this point because we don't want to hear any more stuff from him. And he never really took proper accountability for his poor series. But coming up, reflecting on Paul George's Clipper legacy overall, how should he be remembered as a Clipper? And how come it just didn't work out like we wanted it to? I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and fewer sports. Thankfully, the Olympics are coming up soon. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel. Oh, before I sign off on that, I want to let you know the Clippers, your Clippers, have the 5th lowest odds to win the West next year. Literally every single team in the West is above us except for Houston, San Antonio, Utah, and Portland. If you think that's disrespectful, honestly, look, we're plus 2,500 to make it out of the West. I would take my chances, honestly. They're sleeping. Head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. Getting ready for the fall. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, back here with Jamal to talk about PG's Clipper legacy. We're just getting into it. I mean, I think he's definitely one of the best Clippers of all time. There is no doubt about that. Of course, when people hear that, they just say like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. But the bar, as we've talked about, and we know is not very high. But that's honestly a selling point to me for free agents. Like, look, you could be the Clipper GOAT, or you could be one of the best players in franchise history just by winning a couple of series. Like, and if you win a ring, like for any franchise that hasn't won any championships, you always become immortal to that fan base. PG's Clipper legacy, how do you think it should really be remembered? And I don't know, you were talking about revisionist history and how should people
it's cool. Like he's definitely one of the better players to ever sport a Clipper jersey. I was going back and forth with a few people about whether or not he should get his jersey retired. I don't know if he will.
Let's bring that up. Yeah, should he?
Yeah, I think he should. I think he should. I think honestly, at the more like the further we get away from like right now, the better in that regard. But
definitely,
just for sure, Kawhi and Paul George for 2021 automatically to me should get their jersey retired automatically.
Okay. All right,
because that. Go ahead.
No, say who else? How about what other Clippers? Because
you asked me personally.
Yeah, because we have to have a bar here.
the first one is Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, obviously, and I do think that's gonna happen. Blake, CP, DJ.
Okay, so you give DJ as well.
Yes,
Okay.
for sure. And then it just goes into like how many do you want to retire? Like I'm a Elton Brand guy.
Wow.
I know that's tough. But
No,
I
it's
remember
not for me. It's not. I mean, Elton Brand, you talked about Q Rich and those guys making you a fan. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you, so like that's when I became a fan. It's like Elton Brand, Sam Cassell, Cuttino Mobley, and
Yeah, man.
people are and I was really bitter about Elton Brand leaving at the time, like so many of us were. But at the same time, had we had Elton Brand, would we have gotten the number 1 pick? I don't even know. That ended up being Blake, so it all worked out. And plus, post Achilles tear, Elton Brand wasn't even that good anymore. Like it wasn't the same anymore. But I have a lot of love for Elton Brand. Like I would be down because that 06 season is major. Like we won a series. We were really good.
Bro, have you? I mean, I'm sure you know, but do people realize his numbers in that second round versus the Suns? That's low key up there for like obviously Kawhi has like to me, off the top of my head, Kawhi has like the greatest individual series from any Clipper.
Yeah, against Dallas.
Against Dallas. His series versus Dallas, his 4 games versus the Jazz. Just I don't think any individual Clipper performed better in the playoffs than Kawhi in those moments.
I would agree.
Outside of that, man, Blake in 2015 is in the conversation, but like if you look up what Elton Brand did against the Suns, ridiculous 7 games. I mean, ridiculous, and had us really on a verge of making history back then. I think about that Raja Bell shot a lot, and like, yeah, man, I think about it a lot. I think about the 10-second Sam Cassell joint.
That's when I learned. That's when I learned what an 8-second violation was. I was 7 years old. That was my first year getting into basketball. I was like, oh, so that's a rule. I'll never forget it.
Pain. And I can go on and on about 06 because AI and Kobe were just really crazy that year. And I'm like, man, if Kobe closes that out, I think we make the conference finals.
I agree. I always tell Laker fans that. We would have had Q Ross giving him a tough time. I'm kind of joking, but like half joking. I just think we were better than them though. And against Denver too. See, we could go on and on about this team, but against Denver,
with Pete.
But against Denver, I felt like Elton Brand was the best player in the series, like pretty easily for me. I wasn't that scared of Melo, to be honest, but maybe I'm just biased.
No, you're right, and it's the playoffs. It's the playoffs, so nobody should be scared of Carmelo. He's not. He's really not like that. But that's a totally different thing. But yeah, I mean, Paul George, I would say his legacy should be looked at favorably, and I don't know if I'd go a little bit more than that. Yeah, I think his jersey should be retired. I think a lot of things will make a bit more sense and feelings will get less hard. Pause. The further we get from this. But I think what went wrong is just like we were talking about it, me and you. Go look up what Paul George did in 2018 and 2019 in a season in which Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard were all active. Paul George played the same position and made first team All NBA, right? Third in MVP voting. And he wasn't 30, right? So I think the safe assumption was, this guy who's been like a traditional third team tier type of player was entering his prime. This is a guy that if we pair with one of the guys, we should really have a real shot. And we got Paul George, and almost immediately that didn't happen, right? We got Paul George. He immediately had surgery, I think, on both of his shoulders.
Right.
And in his first season, he was dealing with the hamstring and everything. And I don't even know how many games he played, but it wasn't much. And so immediately we got damaged goods, right? And 48. So like, and I think it was the shortened season, so it was 72. So 48 out of 72 immediately the first year. It's kind of surprising how it mattered, but it kind of didn't. We still were the 2 seed. We still were championship contenders. Kawhi Leonard the highest points per game that he ever averaged as a Clipper that year. Second team All NBA, which really helped, along with Lou Williams and Trez. And that, you know, I always say this, but the 1920 Clippers are becoming very underrated. That was a very potent team.
They had a lot of talent.
A lot of talent, top 5 on offense and defense in both ends. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George was not what he was built to be, and then we still beat the Lakers twice that year. And yeah, we were up 3-1 on the Nuggets, and that's not nothing because we see what the Nuggets have that core kind of turned into the MPJ Jamal Jokic thing. So, but yeah, that's like we traded for a guy that can challenge for a first team All NBA, and we got a guy that did not come close to that. In fact, in his 5 years as a Clipper, he made All NBA one time. He had 3 playoff runs with the Clippers. 2 of them were abysmal. I wish, bro, can we curse on here? Nah, I'm gonna chill out. I mean, I wish I was joking when I said abysmal. Like, you want to forgive him for the bubble because it's like the circumstances were some of the worst and some of the most unique in NBA history. So it's like, all right, I get it. Your mental's away from your family.
And he came back the next year and kind of made up for it.
He redeemed himself. Exactly. So it's like, okay, I get it. Like you came back in 2021 and you did that or whatever. Then the very next year, I think he plays like 30 games, and then or something like that. And
31.
Then 31 games, and then you get COVID in the play-in, and we flame out there. And then the very next year, once again, you weren't All NBA level good. And then this year, once again, no COVID, no anything. Contract year, the stage is set. You and the Clippers have been going back and forth as it pertains to your contract and what you like. Okay, you want the full max. All right, Kawhi needs you. He needs you. The franchise needs you. We are struggling. Kawhi Leonard is on one knee. We don't know when he's going to come back. This is your chance. Show us why you are going to be. And it's not like we played the Celtics in the first round. We played the Mavericks. Like, come on now. What's good? And once again, abysmal. He did not have a B+ series. He did not have a C+ series. It was an F. And yeah, I say all that to say, I look at his tenure with the Clippers as favorable, but I also look at it as pretty underwhelming, based off of the player that we traded for. The best way I could sum it up is if you told me this was the player we were getting, I would say nice player, but we're not trading all that for him. You know what I mean? Like we'd rather just gamble with what we have or go another route, but we're not sacrificing that much of the franchise for a guy that's a fringe All NBA guy. Like, at his best, top 20, 25 in the league? Like, nah. So, yeah, it sucks to hear some of the things he said on the way out. But I want to make it clear he's a hell of a talent, hell of a player. And at times he leaves you wondering why he isn't what he's billed as. And there's a reason he's billed the way he is because of the talent. Crazy talent. I'll go on record as saying, like, I think he's easily, for me, one of the most talented basketball players I've ever seen in my life.
He is.
And I'm not like you as much in terms of like just a flat out historian of the game. I'm knowledgeable of it and aware of it, but I'm not as, I don't study it as much as you do. But I don't think it's crazy to say he's one of the most talented, just flat out talented basketball players, definitely of his era. And sometimes he leaves you mesmerized, but as Philly fans will find out, you will wonder why he goes 3 weeks and he can't break 18 points. And why do you have 9 points in a game when Joel Embiid isn't playing? You know what I mean? So a lot of lows, some highs. But all in all, I am grateful that Paul George, along with Kawhi, decided to become Clippers because it does help. It does help the health of the franchise when you get someone of that cachet, 9-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. He says, and he had a chance to go with the Lakers, and he passed it up. And back in the day, and then eventually he ends up coming to the Clippers, and it's like, yeah, we're not the Lakers, bro. We need all of this. We need all of our stuff, man. We need every single All-Star that want to come here, come rock, So I'm grateful that Paul George decided to be a Clipper. Wish it went, a different way, but yeah, very, very good player. Very good player for us.
Coming up, though, going to be looking at the future, how it went down and how we rebounded from Paul George leaving and the Intuit Dome. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. I still haven't made my way over to Dodger Stadium this summer, and I have to see Ohtani and the boys. I love going to sporting events. It's one of my favorite things to do, as everybody knows. Obviously, I had season tickets for the Clippers this past year. And there is a place that helps you get tickets last minute and gives you very good deals on them, even up to the start of the event, and that is Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. We are closing the chapter on Paul George's legacy as a Clipper. Talked about all that he did. I think it's safe to say that it was one really good season, and then the rest were underwhelming. Obviously, 2022 a little more due to injury, but that's the actuality of it. So that being said, I agree with a lot of your thoughts. I'm always going to thank him for 2021, especially as people that were in the building. That was really special for us, and we could go on and on about why that means so much, because a lot of people are probably going to question why just making it to the conference finals, like they're like 2021, you're acting like that's a championship. But again, I know this sounds ridiculous, but it kind of was our championship at the time.
It is.
That second round, people don't understand the jokes, man. Like it was insane. And I really I don't try to make it seem like we're better than anybody as fans in this way, but being in LA, you just hear more of it. Like when I was in Massachusetts going to college, I almost was more comfortable wearing my Clipper stuff around because all these Celtics fans saw me as like, we have a mutual enemy here. They were just so not used to seeing a Clipper jersey out there. It wasn't a big deal, but out here, you might get the comment, you might get the look, or, you go to work and there's Laker fans all around. We're a minority. So when we lose, it's 10 times worse than I always say, if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, okay, you can soak together in Charlotte with the other people, but for us, it's bad. So this into a dome era. I haven't been since about a month or so. I'm seeing everything the people are posting. This is going to be absolutely crazy. What do you think of our upcoming team, and how do you think do you think we handled the Paul George negotiations the right way? And two, how do you think we've rebounded towards that for this upcoming season?
I do. I think the big thing is when the negotiations started, right? Which was well over a year ago. And, Paul George is coming off 2 seasons where he played 34 games and then missed the final playing game. And then he's coming out off another season in which he fell short of 60 games again, and then wasn't able to play in the playoffs. Right. So I say that to say that's kind of when the negotiations started. And at that point, it's like, you kind of want to cut bait with that guy anyway. Like this isn't it. You know what I mean? Unless you can find another guy to kind of help Kawhi and P and take the load off of them during the regular season, because these guys are just missing way too much time. You can't have two guys missing that much time and then taking that much up of your cap. So you start there, and I thought the Clippers handled it well. I know P said I think it was 2 for 60. He said that wasn't totally accurate, and I'm glad Lawrence Frank came out and like said what it really was. But yeah, I think as the year went on, I think Woj was the first one to talk about it, how the Clippers were really looking at, okay, we are looking to be players in like 26. And so we're not giving you guys more than 3 years. You guys haven't stayed healthy enough. We haven't broken through. We are doing 3 years, and we will tear this thing down before we give you guys full maxes. And I thought that was the right stance to take. And Kawhi was with it. And then eventually James Harden. We traded for James, and eventually James Harden. He's got the he re-signed, and he also has a player option. I think is it player? Yeah, a player option next the year after, which kind of gives you a window into like what things can be going forward in terms of like setting it up for like a completely new era, or at least being able to move towards that if and when that time presents itself. But yeah, I thought they handled it. And then at the end of the Mavericks series, after Paul George completely embarrassed himself, ended up offering him the same deal that you offered the franchise player, which that's another story, but I don't even know if I did that. Like,
right
at this point, we're better off just like letting, because like what is that? Like literally, what is that? You know what I mean? So yeah, I thought they handled it well. I've said it on Twitter. I really do wish he came back. Just because I wanted to see that nucleus with a training camp together and a start to the season. They peaked so high last year, and I don't think that's in nothing, especially in a conference in which the 5th seed makes the NBA finals. The year before that, the 7th seed made the finals. Made the conference finals. And, you know, we're in an era of just so much unpredictability that if you have some guys that can go 25-5 in a regular season stretch, led by a guy who over 30 games averaged like 26 a game on 50-50-90, dude, you have a real shot. And as much as I soured on Paul George towards the end, you know, 23 a game on like 47, 41, 90, 6'9", it just doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah, he does it easily, to be honest.
Yeah,
Every
like
season.
You know,
even seasons we're underwhelmed by, he still gets 22 like with ease,
bruh. So I have this thing with Justin where I say like, this is my opinion, I don't think there's a more predictable basketball player in the NBA than Paul George. I don't. I think he walks into fringe All NBA, 23 a game, hyper efficient. That's why he makes the All-Star game every year, because his line is just so beautiful.
Right.
But if you're like us, you know that he gets to that very violently. He's gonna start the year off. Just can't miss. He can't miss. He's probably gonna be in contention for the player of the week for a few times. He just can't miss to start the year.
Philly fans gonna be going crazy in the beginning, huh?
Right, man. I mean, we'll see what happens, but that would be my prediction. Like, he's gonna come out of the box and he's just not gonna be able to miss. And then he's gonna go through a stretch where, you know, we had people on Twitter saying like, dude, Norman Powell is better than you. That's how bad it got. Like,
yeah,
it was.
I never agreed there, but that was crazy.
No, I mean, yeah, anybody who thought that's kind of like, come on now. And that's another thing with P. Like, people tend to go too far with him. There's people who either love him way too much, or there's people who get way too down on him.
To listen to the rest of my conversation with Jamal, hit the link in the description and in the pinned comment, where we'll talk about what there is to look forward to this upcoming season, what the Intuit Dome could do to change the Clippers' perception in LA, and is Paul George getting booed on the way back home? Find out on the bonus episode.